Good afternoon, everyone. Jai Hind. I am Major Mohammed Ali Shah. I have the proud privilege and honor to be in conversation with a very, very illustrious diplomat. In fact, he has had a very illustrious career in the foreign services, and he is interestingly right now. We all are very concerned about the eight naval personnel who are there in Qatar who have been awarded the death sentence, unfortunately. And we all were a bit at peace, a bit at rest when we heard very comforting words from Ambassador Fabian, who was mentioning about that no, I mean it's unlikely that an execution would take place. That's a different thing altogether. And since then, I have always been a great admirer of Ambassador Fabian, and that prompted me to reach out to the ambassador and request him if he could give some time to us and talk about his diplomatic journey, about what had inspired him to join the foreign services and his life thereafter. Let's welcome him, sir. Jai Hind, sir, and thank you very much for taking your time, sir.
Jai Hind, and thank you. Good to be with you.
That's so kind of you, sir. So let's start from the very beginning. What inspired you to actually join the foreign services? Though I know I've been told several times that traveling is the best education, and you have gone to so many countries. So, what inspired you to take up IFS as a profession, sir?
Well, looking back, during my time, that is, we are looking at the early 1960s, it was more difficult to get into the IFS than into the IAS. So I had this rather, what shall I say, not very logical idea, but if something is more difficult, then I will go for that. And of course, my elder brother encouraged me, but my dad wanted me to join the IAS. So I told my elder brother, you better have a word with dad, and I want both of you to tell me the same thing. So
Sir,
that is how it happened.
sir, that is so nice. Of course, your entire family must have been very proud to see the IFS officer there, sir. And how was your first assignment like, sir? First assignment abroad, I would say, rather.
Yes, I was sent to Madagascar to learn French. And in less than 2 years, the ambassador was transferred, and the new ambassador took almost 2 years to come. So, at a very young age, as a second secretary, I was charge d'affaires, for almost 2 years. So, I used to I was the officer controlling cipher, the communication. Now, my first ambassador, Cyril Jones Tracy, who had served with Netaji, you know, for some reason or other, he started an investigation into the activities of the cipher assistant who left for France. He was from Pondicherry. So I was doing the work of the cipher assistant. I was also cipher controlling officer. And then, of course, when the ambassador was there, I will sign as cipher assistant. Then I will sign as officer controlling cipher, OCC. And of course, put it up to the ambassador. But when I became CDA, I will have to sign 3 times: cipher assistant, OCC, and CDA. You get it?
Yes, sir. Very much, sir. Very
And
much,
of course,
sir.
during my
So you
time,
were talking about the 60s. So let me forward it slightly ahead to the early 90s, where we all know that you were the joint director Gulf, and the Gulf War had broken out, and you were instrumental in getting a lot of Indians safely back home, from be it from Kuwait, be it from Iraq, be it from anywhere. I mean, you, in fact, a lot of Indians owe that to you, sir. In fact, could you tell
well,
us a bit about that experience, sir?
thank you. I mean, I was joint secretary Gulf, but I wouldn't say that I did it. you
That's
know
very
that
humble of you, sir.
that was the time when uh, not only the government of India, the union government, but also the state governments and the civil society, we all worked, you know, in perfect harmony. Let me give you one example. When I had gone to Amman, capital of Jordan,
Jordan, sir.
from where the Air India flights were taking place, two things happened. One is that I visited a school where our people were put up, and our people told me that they were not getting bottled water. Because what was happening is that the truck with the bottled water will come, and not only Indians but also Filipinos were there in large numbers. And they told me that the Filipino young women, they will sort of flirt with the Jordanian security guards, and they will get all the bottles. Our people did not get enough. So what I did was that I phoned up Abu Dhabi, UAE, and spoke to our ambassador, AR Sethi, asked him how he is, and then I said I got something very important to talk to his boss, meaning Mrs. Sethi, because she was the president of the Indian Women's Association in UAE. See, my problem was to get funds. Now, if I ask MEA, they will take time, you know. So I spoke to, Indu Sethi. She said, no problem. You will get it within 30 minutes. Well, naturally, she had the funds. So she spoke to a particular international company in Abu Dhabi, which had its branch in Amman. And the truck came, you see. And of course, the truck had instructions to ask either for me or for, I had given three names from our community who were, staying there. So they approached, I had left by the time, and they approached these three women from India. And of course, I had talked to them saying that don't take all the bottles, do take as many as we want, but send some to the Filipinos also, as a matter of courtesy, you know what I mean? So, what I mean is that it was all seamless. You make a phone call and things get done, you see. Another instance was when I was in Amman again, uh, morning, breakfast. The Air India manager came to me with a very long face. Manuel was his name. He was from Kerala. So I asked him, sit down and have coffee with me. So he said, no, sir. He did not want to take any breakfast. So I had to act like a dentist to find out why. Well, he said that the previous evening they had, meaning the crew, Air India crew, and the pilot had walked out on him. Why? Because the passengers, our people who were put up in hostels and schools and, different buildings far away from the aerodrome, they were late in coming. Now, I digged into it, and you see, thing is that it was not their fault. You see, they were coming by bus, and every 3 kilometers, some Jordanian policeman would stop the bus. And since the guy did not know English, suppose the bus had 60 passengers, he would take your passport, look at your photograph, and look at your face about 5 times. Now, it can take a lot of time, no? Now, if this sort of stopping of the bus happens so many times, naturally, for no fault of theirs, our people will be late to reach the aerodrome. Okay? Anyway, so Manuel wanted me to talk to the pilot and to the crew, to Civil Aviation Minister in Delhi, or Civil Aviation Secretary, or to Foreign Secretary. So I told him, let me think it over. But it occurred to me that my talking to any of them was not going to make any difference. So I thought of a different plan. I knew the Hindu correspondent based in Bahrain who was in charge of the whole area. His name was Firdaus Khargamwala. Background is that he had joined the foreign service, but he was a little disappointed, so he went back to the media. So I called Firdaus, and mind you, there was no cell phone then. I told him, listen, Firdaus, I want you to carry a story about Air India. The story is that we are facing a national emergency and Air India has risen up to the occasion, meaning passengers can come 1 hour late, 2 hour late, 2 hours late, 6 hours late. It didn't matter. Air India was always there with a namaste, radiant smile. And if they had to work non-stop for 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours, it didn't matter because Air India knew it was a national emergency. So there was no question of, looking at the number of hours. And second part of my message was that we all, those of us in the government and outside the government, we have to learn from Air India. So Firdaus laughed and said, Fabian, is it true? So I said, it is not true. But if you carry the story tomorrow, it will be true. So then he hummed and hawed. So I said, listen, if you carry the story quoting verbatim a senior joint secretary to Government of India, nobody can find fault with you. The joint secretary might get into trouble, but that doesn't matter. So he carried the story, and the next day, Manuel came to me at breakfast with a beaming face. Sir, it's all done. So I said, sit down and tell me slowly, but today you are going to have a 2 egg omelette right along with me. So he said that the crew and their pilots have told him that there will never be any problem and that there was high praise for Air India in the media. So there was a meeting of the Association of the Crew and the Guild of the Pilots, and they decided that there should never be any problem, even if passengers come late. So, what is the lesson? At times, it's good to praise people, and you get what you want.
That's very true, sir. That's a very good lesson learned. So that's a very good lesson learned through practical experience. So your experience in the Gulf, particularly around the world, of course, but in the Gulf particularly, your experience is phenomenal. Like I'll give us one example. Like for having served in the army, so I had multiple tenures in the northeast part of India. So in JNK also I had served, but northeast part of India I had more service there, being from the army. So similarly, so tell me, sir, your experience as the Joint Secretary Gulf later on, it would have helped you subsequently when you went as ambassador to Qatar as well?
Yes, it did. Since I've been dealing with Qatar since 1988, it helped. In fact, when I was ambassador there, Qatar stopped Air India flights. What happened was that, you know, once Qatar Airways flight was entering our airspace, as you know, it is customary for the ATC, air traffic control, to ask the pilot, your name, please, number of your license, valid till. This is elementary information before you permit. So in one case, this guy, I don't think he was a Qatari, he was a foreigner, but the guy had an expired license. So our ATC told him, okay, we are letting you in this time, but please, next time when you come, you should have a valid license. Okay? Well, the same guy came some weeks later with the same invalid license, and our ATC sent him back. Immediately, Qatar stopped an Air India flight. Okay? Then MEA called me, and I told MEA, listen, either you deal with in Delhi or I deal with in Doha. There is no question of you are trying to dealing with it in Delhi and my dealing with it here. No. So they said, no, no, we want you to deal with in Doha. Then I said, second condition, we shall together decide what to tell the media when. So they agreed. So I asked my office to get me an appointment with the foreign minister, who was very powerful because his niece was the Amir's preferred spouse, Shekha. You see, so the foreign minister was, very very powerful. Now, even before my office got any response to our request, we got a summons. I got a summons from the foreign minister's office. So I went
Oh,
there to go and see him from the foreign minister's
okay,
office to go and
okay,
see
sir.
him. I mean, instead of my responding to my request for an appointment, he was summoning me. You see the difference. Okay. So I went there, greeted him, and very sternly he told me, restore my flight. Under what rules? Chicago, Warsaw Convention. Under what rules have you stopped my flight? And he went on like that, translation from interpretation from Arabic to English and all that. He was very angry. So I didn't stop him. So at the end of it took him about 15 or more than almost 20 minutes to tell me all that. So I told him, I thanked him for this meeting because I myself had wanted to see Your Excellency. Now, all that Your Excellency has told me will be communicated to my government promptly and faithfully, and I shall let you know as early as possible. But meanwhile, I had wanted to see Your Excellency to find out why my flight has been stopped. And I shall be grateful if Your Excellency will be good enough to tell me under which convention, Chicago, Warsaw, or any other. So he kept mum. So then I said, let me explain further. The background is that your pilot did not have a valid license. And as we all know, a pilot flying an aircraft without a valid license, is that a good thing? We all have to cooperate in stopping that. He kept quiet. Then I said, my position is you should restore our, I mean, I didn't put it that bluntly, but that was in substance. You should restore my flight. And once you restore my flight, I assure you that your flights will be restored. Well, he repeated his demand. Then there was silence. I thanked him for the meeting and sought his permission to leave him. That was about 11:45, 12 o'clock. And I gave a phone call to Delhi and said, this is what has happened. 7 o'clock in the evening, DGCA of Qatar, Director General of Civil Aviation, calls me up. Excellency, I want to come and see you urgently. I said, come over. I was at the residence. Offered him a drink. He didn't want it. He wanted tea. Fine.
This was
So
at what time, sir? What time was this?
7 p.m.
7 p.m., sir.
So what he wanted was that he wanted me to give in writing that once Qatar flights are restored, sorry, Air India flights are restored, then India would restore Qatar flights. I very courteously I refused. I said, between us, with such cordial relations existing between the two countries, there is no need for anything in writing. And this is what I told your foreign minister, and I repeat, and you can take my word for it. He tried a little longer, saying this, that, and all that. He had been instructed to get it. So I stuck to my line. So he left me after half an hour, maximum 45 minutes. Then within about after 8 o'clock, he called me from his office. Excellency, your flights are restored. So I thanked him and said, I would now request you to ring up Air India so that I want to hear from Air India that the flights have been restored. And as regards your flights, you will hear very soon from me. Well, within 3 minutes, Air India called me. So I said, all right, good. I told Air India, you can call your Qatar Airways counterpart and say that their flights have been restored. And as a matter of courtesy, I called up the DGCA and told him that we Air India has informed Qatar Airways that their flights are restored. So that is how it ended. And after that, we told the media, but without boasting about it. You know what? I mean? We merely said, after consultations, you know, this is what happened. Flights have been restored. I didn't even say Indian flights were restored first and then. No. See, in these matters, the intention is to solve the problems, not to boast. Boasting is unnecessary and it can be quite dangerous.
Sir,
So, in other words, Qatar will listen to reason.
absolutely, sir. Sir, because again, I spent a very, very small amount of time in the Gulf. In fact, you mentioned about Amman. So I had the honor of taking a dip in the Dead Sea, where I was told one can never drown over there. So one could. But I was on a similar conversation with Ambassador Anil Trugunayat, who was the ambassador to Jordan, and he told me during his time, unfortunately, there was a case of one Indian who had drowned in the Dead Sea. It
Oh,
was actually very, very surprising. Very
hmm,
surprising.
hmm.
So, how was your experience at the Dead Sea? Your first dip over there, sir, since you went to Amman, so you would have obviously had gone.
I enjoyed it. I had gone there after uh, the liberation of Kuwait. I had gone to Iraq, and I had to go by surface route from Jordan to, So I had a dip. I mean, it's all a question of physics, in that, what is it? It's a salty water, no? So the specific gravity is different than pure water.
Sir,
It is all
sir,
Archimedes law. Archimedes law.
yeah, sir. So, since you understand the Gulf so well, and especially Qatar for that matter, so I heard this interview on television of yours where you were mentioning about the last death sentence Qatar had awarded was in 2021 when they executed some people, and that too after a span of 20 years. So it's unlikely that they would do it. So, what is your take about the 8 Indian Navy naval veterans who have been sentenced to death over there, sir?
First thing to understand is that the verdict is that of a court. It is not a decision of the government of Qatar. Second thing is that this is a court of first instance, a lower court. And the third thing is that Qatar has a system of delivering justice because some time back, a Filipino was sentenced to death for espionage. He was working for Qatar General Petroleum. He was sentenced to death for spying, and two other Filipinos working for the Qatar Air Force, they were sentenced to long years, 20 years or something like that. So that was by the lower court. But the Court of Appeal, revoked the death sentence, made it life imprisonment, and also reduced the length of imprisonment for the other two. In other words, there is a system that delivers justice. Now, the thing is this: whether our people indulged in spying or not, the fact of the matter is that Qatar believes it has got solid evidence, you know, and therefore, as we all know, espionage is a very serious matter. Okay, So what we should do is we should follow the legal option for a while and see whether we can get any relief at the Court of Appeal. Suppose the death sentences are revoked and they are sentenced to X years, okay? Then we have a couple of options. One, of course, is that between the two countries there is an agreement that the national of country A arrested in country B can spend the life as the sentence in his own country. You know what I mean? That agreement is there. But my view is that we should, apart from following the legal option, we should also use the diplomatic option. In fact, I would have thought that when the death sentence was announced in the media or otherwise the government came to know, it would have been good if the Qatari ambassador was summoned to MEA, and if, say, the foreign minister had gone to Qatar, you know what I mean, to have a discussion with his counterpart, because to show how important, how much importance we attach to it. You know what I mean? Anyway, neither seems to have happened. But let me also tell you, in this matter, MEA may have done much more than they are in a position to tell the public. After all, such sensitive matters, you can't tell everything. But in this case, my view at this moment, because I'm not privy to everything, because as you know, the procès verbal, I mean of the court procedures, that is with us in Delhi, and it is being translated into Arabic. The Navy chief was saying the other day he was waiting for it from Delhi. You know what I mean? So, but I'm not part, I don't know what it contains. But my guess is that we have to seek pardon from the Amir, and that we should prepare the ground for it. And hopefully, if we act smartly, we might get the pardon at the time of Ramadan 2024, that is March, April. And once the death sentence is revoked, then we can work for work for, their coming back to India. You know what I mean? So we have to go step by step. This, some people saying that we should bring them back today, tomorrow. No, that is acting in haste. We have to act calmly and make sure that what we do is effective.
That's very, very sensible, sir. I was in a similar conversation with one of the kins of the naval veterans, and he said the same thing. He said the diplomacy is the only way forward, and he wasn't too much in favor of the International Court of Justice. He said that it'll take years, they'll drag their feet, and nothing is going to come out of it. And we have to soft talk. And what is right, sir? The Amir has the powers to actually pardon it, sir.
No, not only that, two things. One is that the pardon by the Amir is, there's not much red tape there. In India, for example, the, the Home Ministry has to process it, then it goes to the cabinet, then it goes to the President's Secretariat and all that. In the case of Qatar, you see, the request for pardon, if made to the Foreign Office, it goes to the Amir's office immediately. Foreign Office doesn't have an option, to look at the pros and cons, whether to send it or not. You follow? And once it goes to the Amir's office, they will look at it, they will look at the big picture. A, it is certainly not in the interest of Qatar to execute 8 Indians. You know what I mean? Qatar's reputation will be damaged. And bilateral relations with India, a rising power under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, again will be damaged. And don't forget, the Amir of Qatar is 43. He is a young person, very well educated, progressive views, and who believes in solving problems, not aggravating them. You know what he is trying to do about the hostages. You know what Qatar did between Taliban and the United States. You know the more recent case where $6 billion of Iran's funds frozen in South Korea were transferred to Iran via Qatar as part of a deal for exchange of detained personnel, Americans and Iranians. So what I mean is that Qatar is very good at conflict resolution diplomacy, and Qatar will never execute 8 Indians just like that. No. Only thing is that we have to make it, what shall I say, possible for the Amir to exercise his, prerogative. I mean, it shouldn't be seen as that, India put pressure on Qatar. No. We have to play it with some subtlety. Because I saw a report, was it in the Mint or somewhere, that India's dependence on Qatar for LNG is going to be reduced because we have found something in Mozambique. And then it says that, it will take a couple of years for anything to come from there. You follow? No, this is not the point. We have to sort of be rather discreet, diplomatic in our pronouncements. We got very tough with Canada. I don't think that was the right thing. We have to take care of our interests. And anger is not part of diplomacy, nor vindictiveness, tit for tat. No, that's not diplomacy.
Right, makes a lot of sense. I mean, a lot of lessons to be driven home. So, and what you have said is indeed very, very comforting, even for the families of the 8 naval veterans who are stuck in Qatar, and who've been sentenced to death, and hopefully they should return back soon, sir. Sir, one more thing I want to ask you, sir. Did you pick up any Arabic while you were there? Arbi malum shwe shwe?
Pardon?
Arbi malum shwe shwe, while you were there, you dealt with Gulf. Did you pick up any Arabic, sir, there?
Did I pick up any?
Any Arabic, sir? Arabic language.
Alhamdulillah.
كويس. ايوه ما في مشكله sir. Sir.
I'm going to Doha next month.
Oh,
Qatar.
okay. Okay. Lovely, sir. Lovely. So you basically kept in touch with Qatar even after your tenure from there.
Yes,
You have been.
I've been there a couple of times. There's a Doha forum. Big Doha
Right,
forum.
sir.
I'm going for that.
Right, sir. So, sir, it was such a wonderful conversation with you, sir. There's so much to talk with you, and I recall that you are busy as well, and you've been very, very generous. That we have आपके साथ बात करके time नहीं मालूम पड़ा बिल्कुल भी. I know you got things to do, but so I was so eagerly and impatiently looking forward to this conversation, so much to the extent that I called you up last night and I asked you, sir, I'm impatient. Can we do it tonight? Is it if possible? I'll have to wait for a few more hours until tomorrow morning. So thank you, sir. Before we part ways, any message you would like to give out in the universe from your end, sir?
Well, it's like this. I think, we have to keep calm and no sort of vindictiveness. And then I'm sure we will get what we want. That applies to everyone. I mean, as ancient India said, we want everyone to be happy.
Absolutely.
It's not that I want to be happy. No, we want all of us to be happy. Vasudevaka Kudumbaka.
Sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your kindness and for your time, sir. It's been such an honor and a pleasure speaking and great learning speaking to you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. All
Jai
the
Hind, sir.
best.
Thank you very much.